Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Thank you for tuning in to the Done Deal Show. Lots to talk about this morning, lots of stories circulating, a bit of confusion surrounding Chelsea and what's going on there with Christoph Freund. We're going to be taking a look at Paul Pogba, who reportedly is currently under police protection due to this blackmailing ring, which does include his brother that has been arrested. We're going to take a look at that because, of course, Pogba is a big player in world football, ex-Man United player, and just a story that I think needs more attention for all intents and purposes. We're going to take a look at Rafael Leao, big links to Chelsea and other Premier League clubs. However, talks about a new deal, talks about that's it for the Premier League clubs chasing him, but is it all as it seems? And Manchester United reportedly looking at trying to sign a very talented young striker, Ramos, from Benfica in January. So we're going to take a look at those stories this morning. What I do need for you all to do is smash the like and share button. If while we're live, we hit 500 likes, I'm going to gift away some more free squad level memberships to you, my viewers, today. Also, let me know where you're watching from around the world, whether you're in the live comments now or you're watching the playback. I want you to put it in the comments section for me. Yeah, so I want that from you. Also, a weird message there, and I wanted to make sure that it was serious, and it isn't. It's clearly I wanted to see if it was serious or not, but there we go. So yeah, make sure like buttons are being smashed. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. But I think we're gonna have Dean Jones back on the show next week. So a few people are asking. Of course, we have Ben Jacobs on still once a week. And we will be things will be back to normal. Moving into next week, just a bit of the last couple of weeks, a bit of a chill with a lot of game postponements, end of the transfer window, and all that jazz. So I wanted to start with the first story today, which involves Manchester United. Reportedly, they're interested in signing a £25 million swoop for the Benfica striker Ramos, with Newcastle and Bayern Munich also sniffing around, according to the media, of course. It's an interesting one, this, for me. I did see this player's name circulate in the summer surrounding Newcastle, and he's had a good start to the season. I think he scored 7 or 8 goals in 12 games this season. He's stepping up with the void being left behind, of course, by the now Liverpool striker, Darwin Núñez. And look, it's some people think that Neil Custis from The Sun is a credible source. Some people think he's an absolute joke. So you can make of the source what you will. Personally, this is one of those stories where everybody knows Man United are on the lookout for a new striker. But with Sesko signing basically a deal with RB Leipzig to move in the summer, with Darwin Núñez being a big target of ours ending up at Liverpool, there is no out-and-out number one target, in my humble opinion, for a striker. I think there are options. I think there are names. I think there are players that United will look at over the course of the next 3 to 4 months into January and into the summer. Now, what's interesting is this sort of speaks about United looking to do this in that January period. Now, remember, the players got a £100 million release clause as well. And this is why this £25 million swoop in January, for me, it's not going to happen. Or anyone that thinks, oh, maybe in January we'll go and buy a striker. Man United spent more than they originally budgeted for in the summer. That means spending in January is going to be very, very unlikely indeed. The only way I think that the club would maybe look at it is, say we come to January and Man United are sitting third in the league and they're 8, 9, 10 points clear of 5th place. Maybe then they'll say, well, okay, there's a big chance here of Champions League football. Maybe we'll spend a percentage of that now to ensure that we get it. However, when it comes to Ramos of Benfica, if he continues scoring in this vein, if he steps up to this level that he's currently scoring at, and the Man United hierarchy in the world of football say, okay, you are good enough, there's no way Benfica are letting him go for 1/4 of his release clause, which is £100 million, meaning the price is only going to skyrocket. So Man United are almost in a catch-22. Spending in January is, generally speaking, more expensive. We're over budget already. That's a Glazer issue. And if the player keeps scoring at this rate, if come January he's played 25 games across all comps and he scored 20 goals, I just don't see Benfica, unless they've got financial issues, accepting £25 million for a player with a £100 million buyout clause, his whole career ahead of him, and who's firing on all cylinders. They're going to try and strike Man United up for a price, and I just don't personally see this deal happening. So it's one of those deals. It's out there. It's from a very close source to Manchester United, but from my standpoint, I just don't see it happening. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. You may have your opinions on this. I'm really eager to read them, but for me, not happening. Why are we talking about transfers in September? Because, my friend, this is when transfers start. So if you listen to Ben Jacobs and Dean Jones over the course of the summer, they must have explained this to you 10 times between them. The reason why the Chelseas and the Man Uniteds were behind this summer, that their rivals in terms of finalizing their targets, is because new ownership and or new management came in, meaning you're starting flat-footed. Liverpool started working on their Darwin Núñez deal in the late February, early March. Arsenal started working on the Gabriel Jesus deal in March, months before these deals were signed. So this is one of the most important times of the season for clubs looking to buy in January. And when you get to around that January, February time, teams start to really do their work for their summer transfer business. So it's very, very important to focus upon it, especially if you want to have a true understanding of these deals. This is when the work begins. Most football clubs, especially the well-run clubs, do not start their transfer business the day the transfer window opens. That would be stupid. That would be like starting the planning. That would be like starting the planning of your wedding in the week leading up to your wedding. You have to do it ahead of time. Poor preparation produces piss poor performance. So that is why, my friend, Benfica slowly becoming the new Ajax. Well, all clubs, like Benfica, are a powerhouse of the past. Same as Ajax. They're a powerhouse of the past. Brilliantly run football clubs, pound for pound, brilliant heritage. You know, of course, they're still decent teams, play good football, etc. But they do not. The Portuguese league and the Dutch league does not have a slither of the money that La Liga, the Premier League, Serie A has, and the money dictates the amount of money you can earn as a footballer playing in the Prem, playing in La Liga, respectively, is night and day. So yeah, they're always going to struggle in relation to that. It doesn't make sense. No one even buys players in Jan. Well, some clubs do, don't they? Just, I mean, to say nobody buys a player in January. Luis Diaz says hi. Luis Suarez says hi. Nemanja Vidic, Patrice Evra. I'm just naming you some of the best January signings of all times. I mean, Spurs signed Kulusevski and Bentancur just last year, my friend. So I'm sorry to say this, my friend, but you've absolutely done yourself, my old brother. You've done yourself bad this morning. Stop, quit while you're ahead, because the comments are going to cook you, bro. I'm only joking. He says, oh, my bad, I forgot it's international break. It is the international break, but transfers are going on at all. Remember, transfer windows are when the transfer is complete. Transfer business starts much before. Aussie Guna here says starting early and trying to make deals is from the get-go. The gaps exist now and will continue, so get it in early. Absolutely right. Morning, Mama Flossie. Hope that you are well. Hope that you are well, my guy. At least you can take a bit of banter. In January, Man United want to avoid missing out on opportunities like last winter. Yeah, and that's from Fabrizio Romano. And look, hopefully things change. Hopefully the club releases more money. Maybe by then the club has got new part owners or new investors in. Let's see who it is. There are still talks of the club spending a lot of money now because they're trying to gear up to sell. There's lots of different stories and rumors that are kind of circulating. But you've got to remember, a bird in the hand can be worth two in the bush. And that kind of echoes when it comes down to the situation with Rafael Leao, who is linked to Chelsea. And I think this is really key because there's talk today in the papers that Rafael Leao is going to sign a new deal and end the Chelsea pursuit. I don't agree. So the article says Rafael Leao wants to stay at Milan and is reportedly in a hurry to sign a new contract despite serious interest from Chelsea. Now, this is a story, and the story makes sense. You know, Milan are in a good position. You know, he's in the team. He's wanted. He's respected. He's loved over there. He's playing good football. Of course, he's playing good football. Lots of clubs around the world are focusing on him, want him. And, they may not have had the best start to the season, but they're only 3 points off the top. There's going to be no worries or concerns or frustrations or anything along those lines from him. There just isn't going to be. Now, I think, why does he want a new deal? Why would he not? You have Chelsea chasing him hard. You've had Man City that have been linked to him. I've read those stories. I think Chelsea are chasing him hard. Chelsea reportedly put a I wouldn't say a sizable bid in, but Chelsea certainly put in a bid of note, according to reports. So I kind of look at the situation and think to myself, this he's a good attacking player, good forward. He's was he 22, 23? I'm just looking here, 23 years of age. He's had one of the biggest, richest clubs in the best league in the world come in for him. Of course, he's going to be in a hurry to get a new deal. I don't necessarily think it's to stay in Serie A forever. I don't necessarily think it's to stay at AC Milan forever. It's to get his bag. That if you're a player and a massive club comes in for you, and I know AC Milan historically are a bigger club than Chelsea. I'm not disrespecting that. In contemporary sense, Chelsea are bigger in terms of how much money they can pay you, the attention that the Premier League gets. And I would say right now, if AC Milan and Chelsea played each other 10 games on the bounce, I think Chelsea, even with their problems, would win 7 of them, maybe even 8 of them. I think they're in that situation. And there isn't the money in Serie A. So he knows, if I go to a club like Chelsea and they pay £100 million plus for me, I'm also going to be earning £250,000, £300,000 a week. So the reason I'm saying all this is Rafael Leao will use this to his advantage, and he will do everything in his power to push the club, AC Milan, into increasing his money, giving him a new deal. Now, this will also, it won't really change the situation in terms of trying to buy him. The price will be the price, whatever AC Milan see fit as a valuation for him. But when I'm reading these stories this morning that Rafael Leao is going to sign a new deal at AC Milan, he's desperate for it, he doesn't want to leave. I'm like, the Italian press are just basically reading out the PR statement from his agent. He loves it here, doesn't want to leave, he's not going to leave, he's here for the future, he's here forever. When for all intents and purposes, he will leave, he will go, he could move to Chelsea, but in the meantime, give me my money. And that's the absolute right thing for him to do, because you don't know what's going to happen this season. At any point this season, he could injure himself badly. At any point this season, he could have a career-threatening injury, which sees him miss 2 years of football. I mean, he could have such a bad injury that his career's over. But if he's on a massive contract, he gets all that money still. It doesn't really change the complexities of trying to buy. I mean, he's got 2 years left on his deal as of now. Valuations are around £63 million, but I think that to buy him, AC Milan are saying that they want over 100 million. They throw a new deal in. What you might even find he puts in there is a bit of a buyout clause. A buyout clause that guarantees 120 million pounds as an example. Maybe he extends by a further 2 years. So it does make it a little harder maybe for the buying club. They can't just wait a couple of years, but it secures Leao's future. The price will be in and around the same. But what would be really sensible if I was Leao is I would set a buyout clause, say 100 mil, 110, 120. Because if he keeps getting better, if he keeps getting better and scoring more and more goals, at least then it stops AC Milan from pushing that asking price to an unrealistic level and sort of stunting his career. But the positive side to it is that AC Milan are now almost back to their very best until they start winning Champions Leagues again. I'm not going to say Milan are completely back, but domestically they are. So unlike a Harry Kane signing his life away to Tottenham, who don't win anything, this guy's winning trophies. So it puts him in a really nice position where he's going to earn big money. He will still have a way of getting out and getting to the Premier League if he wants to join, but he's also at a football club that's winning again. It's win-win for Rafael Leao. So if I'm a Chelsea fan and you want to sign him, I wouldn't necessarily be worried. I wouldn't be panicking. I wouldn't be frustrated. I would simply be sitting there and thinking to myself, it might just cost us a little bit more. In fact, though, it might make it a little bit easier if some kind of buyout clause is placed onto the placed onto the valuation of the player or into the new contract, as it were. So when I read those headlines, I wouldn't take them. I wouldn't say take them with a pinch of salt, but this whole it's going to end Chelsea's interest. Why would it? I mean, it's very normal what he's doing, in my opinion. Leao staying is the best thing for his career. Honestly, guys, same as Tomiyasu, both must stay and develop further. From a Milan fan. Are United not interested in Tony? I mean, I haven't seen much talk of Man United and Tony. There was some loose talk in the summer. I spoke about it the other day. I think we should be. I know it wasn't a great showing against Arsenal, but Brentford are nowhere near Arsenal's level as a team, so it didn't really help. Another comment here says United should get Ivan Toney and get rid of Ronaldo. He has similar attributes to Ronaldo and Martial. I mean, of course, not peak Ronaldo, but yeah. I mean, listen, if Anthony Martial could get back to his best, I'd have him over Toney. But I like Ivan Toney, and let's see what happens. Griezmann to United. Any truth in that? No, I don't think so. I think when you look at someone like Antoine Griezmann, I think one, he's past his best, and two, he would be very, very expensive from a wages point of view. And I don't think Man United would get a return on that investment. I would be surprised if we did it. I'd be a little bit annoyed if we did it because I don't think we'd get enough bang for our buck, as it were, personally. Jim here says, we United get robbed over the years, overpaying and either paying double for players. Look at Anthony. He's not worth 100 million. Maguire, 80 million. Yeah, and this is why it always makes me laugh when rivals say we should like our owners because they spend a lot of money. I'm like, bruv, if I give you £20 to go, a £20 note to go out and buy me a loaf of bread, a pint of milk, and some butter, and you come back with 50p change, I'm going to be annoyed at you because you've overspent. Like, where did you get my bread from? Like, legitimately, where's the milk from? Did you get the milk from a fucking unicorn or something? Or what is it? Is it a magic cow? I don't get it. Who churned the butter for you? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of the mad ones for me. Like, Man United. That's why Man United. That's why. Listen, I don't listen to rivals when it comes to the Glazers because, of course, rivals think the Glazers are good because they've ruined Man United and they've kept them out their way. But there we go. Chelsea to get Ronaldo in January. I mean, that could still happen. I mean, Todd Boehly wants him. It depends what Graham Potter thinks and feels and believes, but we will see. I'm sure that rumor will rear its head again. I'm sure we're going to see a rumor of sorts like that come out. I'm pretty sure of that myself. If I'm being absolutely honest. Leao was very good. Still a bit to learn. Cheaper alternatives. PSV youngster. Bakayoko, such a talent. I don't know about that individual personally, so I'm not going to express an opinion. That would be weird to do. But yeah, look, I think there's lots of these young strikers. The striker market's really interesting because number 9s are becoming very popular again. How many elite number 9s are actually out there as an example? And then there's a lot of other players like that play more of a forward role as opposed to just an out and out sort of striker position. Like, Rafael Leao has played a lot of his games in his career from the left hand side. You've got Christopher Nkunku, who everybody talks about as a striker, but he's more of a second striker. He reminds me more of a, where Wayne Rooney played a lot of his career, different style of player, but the positions that he picks up, that secondary striker kind of in the hole. So there's lots of young attackers who have got question marks over them, depending upon the league they've played in, their age, their rawness, etc. So it's going to be a very interesting market as we go into January and in the summer to see where these individuals end up. Thanks for saying I look great. I appreciate the compliment. Terry, Graham Potter wants Harry Kane swap with Lukaku plus money. Yeah, listen, I mean, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on today, but listen, that is a deal. Harry Kane to Chelsea, as a football fan only, I'm here for that. As a football fan only, I'm here for that. And Harry Kane should be doing everything in his power to make that move happen. Harry Kane should not even be thinking about anything other than getting the hell out of Spurs. And that's not a dig at Spurs. People always think I'm digging at Spurs. That's me talking to Harry Kane on a level and saying, you ain't winning anything staying where you are. You ain't winning anything staying where you are. Get yourself out. Keeping it on Chelsea, another story that's been circulating over the last few days is the situation with Christoph Freund, sorry. And of course, Fabrizio kind of put out the personal terms agreed. Salzburg have subsequently denied this. Ben Jacobs has been hot on this the whole time. And they said that Salzburg's statement to me confirming they expect Christoph Freund to stay despite their sporting director verbally agreeing with Chelsea. Now, this led to a number of people asking Ben and tweeting out as to whether or not Fabrizio was lying or getting ahead of himself. I mean, obviously not. It literally says they're agreeing verbally to join. Salzburg, FC Red Bull Salzburg have never been contacted by Chelsea to talk about any transfer details with Christoph Freund. We expect him to stay, is the statement. However, as we all know in these circumstances, it's very, very normal for a club to deny an outgoing sporting director, especially if he's in a period of gardening leave incoming. Salzburg's statements provides balance. There's a current, that's their current position, but make no mistake, as reported yesterday, Freund has verbally agreed to join Chelsea. So he's agreed to join. What Ben's telling everybody is it's very normal for Salzburg at this moment in time to say, we haven't agreed anything. The clubs haven't even spoke to us. By the way, that's very normal as well. Remember what I've been telling you on the terrace for 3 or 4 years, and people like to forget this. It is almost completely unheard of in recent years to speak to a club about buying a player, getting a manager, or taking a sporting director away without having agreed to deal with that individual first. Very rarely does that happen. We've seen it. I've seen it once in the last from big clubs. I've literally seen it once in the past 3 years when Arsenal tried to sign Vlahovic. They agreed a price with Fiorentina before speaking to the player. They are the only example where I have seen that. You may forget what the public PR is. My player doesn't want to leave this club. The manager is fully committed. The sporting director is fully committed. They are generally having these conversations behind the scenes, normally via an intermediary. So Ben Jacobs, when it comes to this area of Chelsea, is the best in the business. I know who his contacts are. He's told me. So trust me when I tell you he is spot on the money here. The garden leave is very interesting. And I'm speculating on this. I haven't asked Ben about this. We'll get Ben on the show later on in the week to talk about it. But maybe there's going to be a little bit of a period where Christoph Freund cannot work for Chelsea. He has to leave his role at Salzburg. It might be a 6-month period. He might have to miss a window or two before he could be involved. Maybe there's something like this, but we will see. However, I think if the compensation is right, that will change things as best as possible. But he has agreed to join Chelsea, according to the brilliant Ben Jacobs. There's just I'm not going to call it an impasse. There is just a situation right now where Salzburg are denying it. But according to most experts, this is very, very normal indeed. Maximum here says Chelsea are going places. Listen, of course they are. I think anybody, I've said it for ages, anyone denying Chelsea, anybody pretending that Chelsea aren't going to improve, Chelsea aren't moving forward, what Chelsea isn't doing is good for them, like, they're moving the needle. They're looking to build something sustainable. And for me, any other club was looking at the sporting directors and technical directors that they are, everyone would be raving about it. They literally could have Fred and Paul Mitchell running their football operation. As I said before, that's like going out, buying a restaurant and going, right, I'm literally going to get Gordon Ramsay and Jamie Oliver to manage my restaurant for me. It's good. It's highly likely to be successful. Highly likely. Daniel here says, Harry Kane will improve our attack drastically, Terry. One of the few number 9s that actually can score and assist. Oh, listen, Harry Kane to Chelsea would be one of the most phenomenal pieces of business in Premier League history. It would give Harry Kane the opportunity to create a genuine legacy in the game for himself, become a genuine hero and legend of Premier League football. He's already a legend at Tottenham. he'll get a trophy at Tottenham if he stays. Sorry, he'll get a statue at Tottenham if he stays and everything else. But he'll never be a legend of the Premier League in most people's eyes. England fans will probably call him one because he scores a lot of good goals for England, and he's given England helped give England their best runs in competitions for 2 or 3 generations, Golden Boot at a World Cup. He's had these things. So the England fans will probably say, yeah, he's a legend. But I stand by this, and we're going to talk about it more with the show with Lee Gunner later today, but I stand by my stance on that. You break down what makes a legend, and he doesn't tick enough boxes yet for me. But going to Chelsea, I think he absolutely could. Terry, you think Boehly will ruin football for other clubs with the money he is spending as Chelsea fans? Doesn't affect me, but other clubs like Liverpool can't spend like this. Nonsense. Liverpool have got more fans than Chelsea. If Liverpool have more fans than Chelsea globally, they have a better sponsorship deal with Nike, where they earn 20% of Liverpool sold merchandise. They're in the same league, so they get the same TV money. They've been finishing higher in the league than them consistently now for 5 years. They've won Premier Leagues and Champions League, meaning their prize money in the last 4 or 5 years has been higher. There is absolutely no reason why if you look how wealthy FSG are, they could pump money in. There is no reason that Liverpool Football Club can't match the spending of Chelsea, give or take. Give or take. They could do it. For me, it's a nonsense that Liverpool don't have money. I don't care how they position their finances. I don't care what they hired. I don't care about creative accounting. None of the top 6 are underdogs. None of them are broke. None of them are small financially. TV deal money is about to increase further. Liverpool are one of the biggest, most recognizable brands in the world. They can spend the money if they want. So Boehly is not going to ruin football or ruin Liverpool because he can spend a little bit more. They're choosing to. They're choosing. And they're choosing to. Let's have a little look here. The problem is, Terry, do you think Levy would let Kane go? Daniel Levy should let Harry Kane go. And I really want to do this more with Lee Gunner later today, if I'm being honest with you, but he should. Tune in tonight, 6 p.m., me and Lee Gunner, and I'm going to tell you exactly why he should let him go. And Spurs fans should also be advocating for Harry Kane to leave. They absolutely should. And there's a big reason as to why. It's actually a positive reason, but it's a reason they have to. Sometimes in life, you have to think beyond the end of your nose. Look beyond the end of your nose. You have to think. You have to see the wood for the trees. You have to think more medium to long term. And Spurs fans, this is going to sound like a weird statement, but tune in tonight at 6 p.m. and I'll explain why. Spurs fans should want Harry Kane sold. And I'll go into why later today. Liverpool built a new training ground and they are extending their one end of their stadium. No, when I listen, I listen. Liverpool have money, exactly, right? There is money there. My point is, Todd Boehly spending money won't ruin Liverpool. Liverpool can afford to spend. They're just investing elsewhere right now. And as that stadium gets bigger, as the training facilities get better, they'll improve even more as a team. I don't like this notion of teams in the top 6. In fact, there are no teams in the Prem that are poor anymore. No one's poor with the TV money we earn. The smallest club in the Premier League earns more money a year now than most big clubs in Europe outside La Liga and Serie A. Their TV deal money is more than most other clubs in Europe make. They're not poor at all. So, yeah, they're not ruining anything for me. FSG are just stingy. Everton spends more money than them. I mean, they've wasted it, but I hear your point. Terry, did that come from the top of your head? Liverpool has more fans than Chelsea. Bro, it's not a dig. I believe globally more people support Liverpool than Chelsea. I believe that every single year Chelsea are closing that gap. But the teams that have been at the height of football for 40, 50, 60 years, I believe have bigger global fan bases. But Chelsea are closing in fast. I'm not one of these people that denies what Chelsea have built over the last 20 years. I just think Liverpool have more fans. Personally, I think they do. Now, I could be wrong. But I think Chelsea have more fans globally. I could be wrong about that, but we'll see. I mean, there's a really easy way of knowing, and maybe I'm wrong here. Most football shirts sold. Let me check this. Football shirts sold worldwide. Let's have a little look here. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, they haven't got the 2020 in 2022. In 2021, Liverpool sold 2.4 million shirts worldwide. Chelsea sold 1.3 million. That would be one key indicator. Like social media following is fine, but like actual fans that actually buy your club's merchandise, yeah, 2.4 million shirts sold by Liverpool in relation to that. So yeah, I think Liverpool do have more fans personally. Personally, that's all I'm saying. I mean, again, I can check social media following, but the problem with social media following is I follow Chelsea's account and I'm not a Chelsea fan. So it's a hard one to gauge. But no one, I wouldn't buy another club's football shirt though. That's my point, right? That for me is what I'd say. Todd Voldemort said, mate, that made me die yesterday. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen and ever seen on social media. That made me laugh. What doesn't make me laugh, though, and I want to speak about this as well, is I want to speak about the news in relation to Paul Pogba. Now, Paul Pogba's brother has been detained and placed under formal investigation after a plot to exploit money from Paul Pogba. Obviously, this is sickening news, heartbreaking news. What's also been claimed is that Paul Pogba tried to even pay the blackmailers £11 million, but the bank, and I won't state what bank it is, blocked the move. A criminal investigation is now underway following allegations the ex-Man United star Paul Pogba's armed blackmailers were his brother and childhood friends. Now, these are the claims that are being made. On top of that, what's now being reported from both France and from Italy is that Paul Pogba, his family, including his mother, are now under full police protection after these attempts to exploit Paul Pogba of his money, of his hard-earned cash. Now, I can only read what the media has stated. I can only read what they are suggesting is going on. And to read this here from, this is from the BBC. As they say that Mathias Pogba has been detained and placed under formal investigation. 4 other people have been placed under formal investigation for extortion and criminal association. Mathias Pogba has admitted he was behind a video that appeared online last month, promising revelations about his brother. French prosecutors opened a judicial investigation earlier this month for the former Man United player. Said he was targeted of extortion and threats from an organized gang. He filed a complaint with the Turin prosecutors on the 16th of July, claiming he was the target of a 30 million euro blackmail plot. And I mean, the fact that he's now under police protection, the fact that this, I mean, it's in the media, it's not being ignored, but the fact this isn't being treated as a much bigger piece of news is staggering to me. Now, we have to say this is alleged. We have to say that for legal reasons. But for your brother and for your friends, close family friends that you grew up with, to try to exploit you like this is harrowing. The sense of loss, the sense of insecurity that Paul Pogba must be feeling, intertwined with, of course, fear over his safety, fear for his children, his lady wife, his mother, must be excruciating right now. Because we hear about break-ins at football players' homes, threats of extortion, threats, these similar things. I've seen these things and worse happen to players before. However, the difference here is this is allegedly his own blood, his brother, who is trying to ruin his life. And from my standpoint, I think football should be doing so much more right now. Whether the fact that he doesn't play in England anymore, I think is completely irrelevant. This should be trending news. This should be being debated and being discussed across networks everywhere. And some will say, well, we don't have any more facts right now. We can't speculate. And I do understand that. But the protection of football players is a talking point, which I think is mooted too much. The football clubs, the associations and leagues they play in should be doing more. They themselves, of course, are millionaires and could look towards private security. Of course they could. But I do think the bodies around them, the associations around them should also be doing more to protect these football players. And for someone like myself who worked with a lot of football players, the fact that I've seen so many robbed of money, I've seen so many misadvised about how to invest their money, terrible things I've seen agents and lawyers and family members instruct them to do, which was it's just been horrendous to see. The fact that 1 in 4 Premier League football players becomes bankrupt after they retire, generally due to levels of spending, poor advice, and then the people that swarm around them when they're players leave and end up doing something else, move on to another man, move on to other footballers. They start leeching elsewhere. That 1 in 4 lose their entire wealth after retiring is shocking. And the reason I say it's shocking is this. Some people will view a footballer as he's just a multi-millionaire. I don't care about rich, wealthy people. Well, I view it this way. The vast majority of football players are working class people. And I like nothing more in this world than to see a working class person succeed, a working class person to rise to the top, a working class person to make their lives better, to better themselves, to create wealth and fortune, not just for them, but for the legacy of their family, to go to a level that they personally never expected. So I think football does need to do more, because for this kind of thing to be going on, for family members and childhood friends to be coming for you, this is just an extension, in my opinion, of the lack of protection that football players face, the lack of protection they get, and almost the kind of nonchalant way we sometimes treat them. As we treat them like they're a commodity. We treat them like they're a piece of meat, in the sense of, you're just a footballer, crack on and play. Oh, you're rich, I don't care what happens to you. I think it's a very cruel and callous way that we kind of now look at the world, that we look at people that create success for themselves, almost like they become a little bit less human because they're more successful than we are. But what are you striving for every day? I know some people don't strive for that kind of success that's monetary or financially based, and that's entirely up to you. But a lot of people do. Imagine yourself, you become successful, you achieve things that you didn't expect, and then suddenly you become what? A little bit less human. People care a little bit less about you. Nobody wants to help protect you. When in some regards, you become an even bigger target, because people, especially when you're a footballer, or you make your means in more of a famous way, you're a massive target now because people know you have money. And I think more needs to be done to protect these individuals. I think more needs to be said about this, more needs to be spoken about this, and this can't just be brushed under the carpet. Because I'm pretty sure if you spoke to large amounts of footballers, this wouldn't be the first time that this kind of thing has happened to whatever degree. But I would like to get your thoughts and your feelings on this here. Money doesn't buy happiness. It doesn't, but it certainly takes the sting out of being poor. It does. People get cheated in all walks of life. Why must footballers be protected? Well, this is my point here. Why must footballers be protected? And by whom? Well, why shouldn't they be protected? Why shouldn't they be? Why shouldn't they be protected? Why should, between them, and I think they've got to play a part in this, between them, their football clubs, FAs, Premier Leagues, more security, more support. But I believe when a football team travels away for a European game, I believe security details should be put on the homes of all these players to ensure their families are being looked after. That kind of protection, because they are a target, and they have more of a target on their back per se than a wealthy banker, than a doctor, who may get followed or something along those lines. But everyone knows when Paul Pogba is traveling for football because it's public information. So yes, footballers should be protected. And if you're a football fan, these people are what give you your enjoyment. So what I don't ever understand about football fans is why you despise the footballers so much. It's very strange to me. I love football, but I hate the footballers. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard anybody say. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard anybody say. The footballers, like all human beings, need protection. Football players are a massive, massive target. If they weren't earning as much money, I think people would care a bit more. But someone has done this to our society where we look at people that earn large amounts of money and we look at them as a little bit less human. And it's a really sickening trait that has infiltrated our society. It really is. Jim here says worrying times, especially for Paul's mother, having to go through such a sickening thing like a family feud where where's Paul's right to privacy? I completely agree. A lot of family members exploit. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some nationalities there. I'm not going to speculate that one nation of people do it more than another because I have no evidence of that. Yeah, I've heard of Emmanuel Boué's story. I mean, I've heard of a lot of footballer stories. I was very fortunate in my last proper job, my last permanent post. I did some consultancy after leaving. When I was at Barclays Private Bank, I worked with a lot of these footballers, and I tell you, I used to sit down with some of their agents, and we'd talk about they'd have large sums of money, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, what are you looking to do with it? Oh no, we're just going to keep it in the current account. It's not earning any interest. It's not earning any money. Why does that matter? Well, £100,000 today, in 3 years' time, is not worth £100,000 if it's earning no interest because inflation rises. This is basic, like, investment advice. I'm like, sit down with someone, like, learn the best and safest ways to, places to place your money. And sometimes you manage to get footballers to break away from like the leeches around them. That, no, keep the money with us, and we'd get them to invest. And I'm talking safe investments here. Nothing that was going to like triple their money. You're talking like anywhere between a yield of 5 to 12% per year. And I can talk about it now because I don't work for the associations, and we can almost guarantee it. And eventually, there's a manager I'm very fond of. He used to manage Wolves in Lipton and Tottenham. He was one of the first footballers or football people to like step away from the norm and go, okay, well, I'll put some money in and do it. He yielded a good return. And suddenly it was like a domino effect. Everybody came to us. And we just wanted this because we just saw so many of them being exploited. We were just trying to help keep their money in a very safe, secure place. We weren't telling them to stick it into some crazy stocks and shares that could make him a billionaire, but also lose him everything. It was just about, you need to, because they kept the money in current accounts. And it wasted. There was one footballer whose friends around him convinced him to build this luxury swimming pool and sort of garden bar in his beautiful home just outside of London. He spent £300,000 making this area. Like, I'm talking getting the pool installed, everything, sound systems, lighting, staffing, like everything. Spent all this money. And it was all these cronies around him that encouraged him to do it. Do you want to hear the scariest part of the story? The scariest part of the story? He was renting the house. He didn't even own it. And they kind of convinced him, stupidly, his mistake, but into doing it. And then the owner of the house, I ain't paying you for it, but you got to move out. So he left it there. Like, he literally spent like £300 on someone else's property. Crazy. But yes, you could look at him and go, well, he's a grown up. He shouldn't have made that mistake. But when you look at the age and the profile of person behind him, like pushing him to do it, it's wrong. It's wrong as far as I can see. It's honestly, there's so much of it that goes on. So, and that's like a drop in the ocean compared to what's happened to Paul Pogba. But yeah, this kind of stuff's crazy. It's scary as well, and more should be done. Terry, could you work for Man United? They like bankers, I could, but I've never applied. I think it's when I was looking for a new job before I left Barclays, someone did send me a decent role at Man United, but it needed you to live in Manchester, and I at the time. Well, even that, like, I got kids. I was like, I'm not leaving where I am to go work in Manchester. But there we go. Any massive footballer is going to have a target on his back. So why wouldn't it make sense to advise them to hire their own security? Yeah, I think you should. But this is why, from a younger age, that these people need help and support, and that's why there should be a coordinated effort between clubs, associations, and players. Because if the player goes, "I'll do it myself," if there's someone like, if Paul Pogba is going to hire his own security, but his brother and his friends are helping him to orchestrate it, well, these are the same guys that have now tried to rob him. That's why it needs to, almost to a degree, have someone outside the box looking in, saying, "Listen, this is the security firm we use. They're loyal to us. We can put a detail on you." To a degree, we kind of control them. The association that's working with them is a highly credible 400-year bank that's like, listen, work with our people, we'll work with your lawyers, we'll also communicate information to your football club. Your football club isn't going to exploit you, is it? Like, let's work together, allow those individuals to book it for you and to run it for you. That way, there's going to be no underhand tactics going on. Like, that's my point, my friend. Can you imagine? Like, Juve aren't going to do this to him, are they? And I'm not even trying to make a joke about it, but they're not. They're just not, as far as I know. Some people don't trust banks, but they're not out there like plotting blackmail things against you. I don't think. There we go. Terry, should football players invest in property? Depends where. It depends where they're going to invest, but as a general rule, yes, they should. But it depends in what. Depends if they're going to be mortgaged up to the hilt. It depends on the country. It depends on the level of ownership. It depends, are they just developing in already existing properties? Is it property development where the properties are still to be built? Are they in an area that they can actually sell them in? I mean, there's so many questions. It's too hard to answer. And again, I'm not an investment expert. What I would typically do in my job as one of the account managers would be to introduce them to the relevant experts in those areas. So it's kind of what my job was. But yes, as a general rule, like, buy property and do your best to never, ever sell the damn thing. Just keep hold of them for as long as possible, is my general feeling. Of course, there's always caveats to that because not every property market, even in the UK, is the same. And I don't even know how property markets work in 90% of the world because I've got no experience there. But as a general rule, yes, you should buy property. They should stick it into Bitcoin. I'm not getting involved in that one. Can't go wrong with properties. Generally speaking, you can't. Generally speaking. I always thought Mathias Pogba helped Pogba, but your very own family member attacking you, that's whack. And yeah, as I say, listen, it's allegedly as of right now, but I don't know. I kind of believe it, if I'm being honest. My personal feeling is I believe it, but we will see. But listen, everybody that's tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. A little bit of fan channel review coming up this afternoon, 6 p.m. tonight. Me and Lee gonna go live. Very much looking forward to that indeed. Make sure before you leave this stream today, though, people, that you're smashing that like button for us, that you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon.